Let's talk about Lee Chaolan. Lee Chaolan, the adoptive son to Heihachi and adoptive brother to Kazuya, the silver-haired demon, alter ego Violet, and in my opinion, the Chad of the Tekken universe. I love Lee. He's one character that went through extremely good character development, in my opinion. He knows exactly where he's needed to be within the Tekken universe, and he's sort of like the Iron Man, Batman of the Tekken universe. Extremely smart, suave, creates suits to help him fight, and financially supports basically everyone else. Without him and his resources, Kazuya would have basically dominated Team Lars and Jin, and he also has the best catchphrase.
Oh, excellent. 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 Excellent!
Anyway, let's get into the lore of Lee Chaolan. So, Lee's parents died when he was a young child, and he lived thereafter on the streets as an orphan. Heihachi Mishima found Lee in the streets of a Chinese city while he was on a business trip. Now, Heihachi witnessed Lee fighting off several other kids, and this really impressed him. From this, he adopted him as his son and brought him back to him to Japan. However, Heihachi, being a schemy guy, decided to scheme. His true intention was to give his son Kazuya Mishima a rival and to annoy him with the threat of another son. It is suggested that Lee was adopted after key events of Kazuya's early childhood. You know, Heihachi taking over the Mishima Zaibatsu, imprisoning his father, Jinpachi Mishima, under Honmaru, killing his wife, Kazumi Mishima, and throwing Kazuya off a cliff, all of which occurred when Kazuya was 5. This would make Lee around 4 years old at the time. It's a little bit loose, but I think this is pretty close to being correct. Now see, these are some reasons why at this point I'm not really on board with this Heihachi being a good guy retcon arc. But anyway, this isn't about him, this is about Lee. So Lee garnered a reputation for himself in the fighting world and became known as the silver-haired demon. Now when Heihachi announced the King of Iron Fist tournament, Lee saw his chance to beat Kazuya and intended to win sole inheritance of the Mishima Zaibatsu for himself. Ultimately, however, Lee lost to Kazuya in this tournament, likely in the semi-finals after defeating King, who came third, and from there Kazuya went on to apparently kill their father and became CEO of the Mishima Zaibatsu. In the aftermath of the tournament, Lee was offered the position of secretary to Kazuya, which if you think about it, is a really dog move considering Lee was really overqualified for this position. At this time, it seems that Lee was deeply unhappy, I'm not surprised, and was approached by Wang Jinrei, who offered to train him and encouraged him to work against Kazuya, who was increasing the corrupt practices of the corporation. As you might remember, Wang was a great friend of Jinpachi, who was now dead under the Mishima family temple. Yes, dead. Wang probably saw the potential in Lee and figured he would be a good person to encourage into the better side of life. Now, when Heihachi was revealed to be alive, Kazuya called a second tournament in order to lure Heihachi out and defeat him. In the course of the tournament, Lee fought against his father, who was furious that Lee had taken Kazuya's side and considered Lee to have betrayed him. Thus, Heihachi gave Lee a smackdown and defeated him apparently pretty easily. This brings us on to pre-Tekken 3, post-Tekken 2. It's unknown exactly what happened to Lee after Heihachi defeated him. He was expelled from the Mishima Zaibatsu for siding with Kazuya, although in Tekken 7, Lee noted that he was cast out of the Mishima Zaibatsu itself, likely for knowing too much about Kazuya's devil side. Now, the way I see it at this point, Lee is basically this exact meme template: follow a path of revenge, or focus on himself and go chill in the Bahamas. As said in Tekken 4 strategy guide, he realised that it was pointless to kill an old man who probably only had a few years left in his life at best. With that realisation, Lee distanced himself from fighting and moved into a mansion in the Bahamas to live a solitary life. Yes, Heihachi, a man literally too stubborn to die, only has a few years left. Good joke, Tekken 4. Which, speak of the devil, brings us on to Tekken 4. 21 years after the second Iron Fist tournament, Lee presented himself in disguise as Violet at the King of Iron Fist Tournament 4. Now Lee, he was now CEO of Violet Systems, a very successful robotics company whose aim was to create a utopian world where menial labour was carried out by androids. Lee himself lived in private luxury in a mansion in the Bahamas, and it seems to have spent the last 20 years quietly building power, trying to keep himself off the radar of Heihachi. What an absolute Chad. After initially being hungry for revenge, he saw the errors of his ways, and instead distanced himself from fighting and the Mishima legacy. Despite this claim, he did keep a careful watch on the Mishima Zaibatsu interests, and was drawn back into his family's troubles after he noticed G Corporation's stock prices plummeting. He then hacked their systems and realized that it was after a Mishima raid on their laboratories. From here, Lee's resentment for the Mishima clan and his interest in fighting were rekindled, and after he took the opportunity to enter one of his robots' combat into the tournament, whilst dyeing his hair purple and going under the name Violet. During the tournament, Lee was shocked to find that his brother, Kazuya, was still alive, and it's no surprise that he was thrown by this revelation and lost focus in the fight to Kazuya. In the wake of the 4th tournament, Heihachi was announced dead again. Lee was scheming to take over the Mishima Zaibatsu when the 5th King of Iron Fist tournament was announced. Assuming Kazuya must have beaten him to take in the Zaibatsu, Lee entered to settle the score with him and to claim the Zaibatsu as his own. Lee was surprised on entering the tournament, however, as he found it was not being hosted by Kazuya after all. It's a little bit unclear what happened from here, but it suggested that he lost interest and seems to just bounce from the tournament, returning home to the Bahamas. See, this is another reason why I really like Lee. He's just like, I don't need that smoke. I'm just going to go back to my mansion with probably tons of beautiful women and lots of money. What a Chad. In the months after the 5th tournament, Lee had secretly been funding Lee had secretly been funding many anti-Mishima activities for some time, but an opportunity arose when nearly half of the Tekken force left the Mishima Zaibatsu, led by a young captain named Lars Alexanderson. Lee funded the early rebel army Yggdrasil? Yggdrasil. I've probably really butchered that. And would continue to provide them and their leader funds, information, and secret bases of operations throughout the operations of Tekken 6, 7, and 8. Which brings us on to Tekken 6. As a major shareholder in G Corporation, another reason why he's Chad, he probably bought the lows of the stock price of G Corp, Lee was able to conduct several secret investigations that allowed him to discover that Kazuya had taken over G Corp. During the course of Tekken 6, Lee had also figured out that Lars was Heihachi's illegitimate son, and the two have been working together as brothers against the Zaibatsu and G Corporation ever since. Lee also helped fix Lars' android friend Elisa Boskonovich, and helped him abduct Jin from the UN and keep him safe during Tekken 7. Now, as with most characters in Tekken 7, there's not a whole lot to discuss about Lee. Lee watched his father's death. Yes, Heihachi came back and died again via a spy satellite, as Heihachi and Kazuya fought in the mouth of a volcano. And now Lee supports Lars' plan to use Jin in order to take down Kazuya, who currently wages a world war unopposed. Lee comes to sympathize with Lars' honest and excellent desire for peace. With the sincere intention of supporting Lars' plan, Lee continues to support the rebel army Yggdrasil and begins working as a staff officer. Lee spent 6 months building and equipping Lars' army to better take on G Corp's superior forces. Together with Dr. Boskonovich, I didn't even realize that he was even mentioned in Tekken 8. He constructed for them the enormous flying boat. I'm not even going to bother pronouncing the name. No, I'll give it a go. Vlopnir? Along with mobile warfare units using motorbikes. Now, to level the playing field against Kazuya's Devil, Lee also built him a next-gen battlesuit. That basically sums up the lore of Lee Chaolan. He started off as a tool of Heihachi to go against Kazuya, and naturally this would fuel him with the urge for revenge, but was able to, maybe with the help of Wang, kind of move away from that path and focus on himself. And I think that worked out much better for him, basically becoming one of the richest, if not the richest person in the Tekken universe. Though saying that, Heihachi's probably, most definitely richer. And you can understand why I see him as kind of the Batman of this universe. He's the one funding all the plans. He made and funded the big flying base. He knows exactly where he's needed, and he doesn't overestimate his own ability, even though he's an extremely talented fighter. And that's why I see Lee as the Chad of the Tekken universe. It's good to be back, and I'll see you all in the next video.